be appealed. Secondly, you have a packet in front of us, or we have a packet in front of us. The top portion of the packet are four appeals that were filed prior to our meeting and have been approved. And then secondly, in your packet are each of the individual appeals that came into the meeting where there has been a suggestion for an adjustment. Everyone try. End of the meeting, the top four sheets are essentially those who did not attend the meeting. They had sent in an appeal prior to the meeting, and those results are in the first four sheets. And then you've got the individual property appeal components as individual sheets behind those. Now, at council's discretion, we have an opportunity to go a number of paths during this meeting. There is an opportunity for every single appeal that has been made for there to be an individual consideration of the appeal. Also, and more traditionally in this meeting, we can do an approval in mass, where we've given council an opportunity to review the packet. If we have questions of Washington County, we can certainly ask questions of Washington County, and we then could either individually pull individual appeal items for individual council consideration and vote, or if council is feeling as if we're able to and comfortable approving in mass, we can approve the packet as similar to like how we would approve a consent agenda. So it is our meeting to take down either path. We do Washington County want to come up and maybe make a couple of intro statements and or anything you would add to the instructions I've just given to council? I may have just said most of what.
Hi, I'm Dan Squires, commercial appraiser with Washington County. I also serve the city of Forest Lake. So my personal recommendation, this is my personal opinion, this is not Washington County's opinion also, would be for the four recommendations that came to us prior to the initial meeting could be considered all together. Of course, that's typically how that's done. But the other 9 that came to the meeting, there's various levels of agreement with the individual property owners. Understood. So some of the property owners, completely agree and they're totally on board. Others are maybe not agreeing with our recommendation because some of them we said no, we recommend no change. So my personal opinion would be that it would be beneficial to those particular homeowners for them to be heard individually. Understood. And at least they could kind of get their day in court, as it were. Understood. So. And happy to support that if council, does that make sense? Excellent. So with that approach, the 4, am I correct in that the 4 that have been approved are in this packet? Is that right? That's correct. Yes. That's correct. Those have all been agreed to by the homeowner and by the county. Okay. Maybe council, let's consider this list first. Maybe we just want to take a minute individually to review this information and see if there's any individual questions or if anyone is ready to, again, once you've had an opportunity to review, to make an approval or a motion to approve in mass, we could approve these 4.
So can I ask a question?
Yes.
Whether it's your county or not. So just to be clear, these 4, like when you see a minus 63, that value is agreed to go down. Then with the homeowner and the county is agreed to lessen that value of the home by that dollar amount.
Correct. Okay. These were changes that the homeowner said contacted us prior to the first meeting. We were able to walk through the property, verify information, and these are the changes.
Okay.
Any questions or items of note for these 4 properties?
No, I mean, a couple of them are pretty significant changes.
I'm just wondering if there's a specific way for how you would want us to approve it, if there's like specific language, especially since there's these ones and then these ones.
Yeah, for the first four, you could say, just approve the assessor recommended changes that were made prior to the meeting,
Okay,
or
sure. Then with that, I'll move to approve the assessor recommendations that were made prior to the meeting.
The motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And motion carries. All right, with that, I think I think it'd be helpful if we're going to consider each one of these individually, if we could have a member of the Washington County staff kind of at the podium to kind of walk us through, we can certainly, kind of read into the record each individual one, and it'd be helpful to indicate just the level of homeowner acceptance. Is there agreement? Is there not agreement? I think that would be helpful so that we're, kind of putting our time and effort on the ones where there might be more of a dispute. And I think that's maybe more of those just naturally are the ones that deserve some more attention. Does that make sense? So our first, and the first property is going to be the 7809 North Shore Circle North. Maybe let's just do these by property address.
Is it 7813 North Shore Trail on your list? Or do you want to go through this, do you want to go on by the sign-in sheet, or do you want to go by the changes?
By the changes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the first one I do have, she's correct, 7809 North Shore Circle North. These homeowners appealed by an email. I was able to walk through the interior of the home, and this is our recommended change. Homeowners were in agreement to it. They still felt, they feel like their property is a demo, essentially, but they were in agreement to the value, even though they felt it was still high.
They think the value of the improvement is too high versus the land.
Yeah. And we look at, as the assessor's office, total value, what it would sell for on the open market.
Okay, and so now you're in agreement. They were in agreement with your assessment
I
at
think
that
for
time?
the most part, they agreed with our value, even though that they
Mhm.
felt it was too high. The homeowners didn't provide any information, and our comp supported our value change. That's essentially the reason for the value change.
Madam Mayor, I'd make a motion that we approve the new assessment for 7809 North Shore Circle North, Forest Lake, Minnesota.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? And motion carries. All right, next one is 9365 235th Street North.
This property owner was in agreement to the change. Basically, we looked at the usable land the property owner had and made some adjustments to that.
And if I'm reading this right, this was a substantial adjustment, right, is
It
this a
was.
total adjustment of 134,000?
That's accurate. The property owner owns 19.5 acres. Most of it is like wet, unusable.
And they were in agreement to the adjustment?
That is accurate.
Questions from council? I would move that council approve the adjusted value as stated for property 9365 235th Street North.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Motion carries. Next item is 21054 Caroline Court North.
This property owner actually appealed by email and actually attended the meeting as well. Staff and I were able to walk through their property, We made some adjustments based on neighborhood and interior inspection. The owner was in agreement to the value change.
Excellent. And also of note, a substantial change in value of $261,800, so.
It looks
notable.
like it's wrong.
Yeah, that does not look accurate.
The last one is wrong too. I mean,
I'm sorry.
looks like they're double counting it.
Yeah, it looks like, you're correct. It looks like it's double counted.
So let's not get these wrong.
So it's just 130, you're at 900.
7,200.
So this should be your recommended value right here.
Yeah, so the recommended value is 905,300. So the recommended value is accurate, but the change on the right-hand side over there is inaccurate.
So the change is 100, am I correct in that reading across the change is 130,900?
From 136,
136,
Yeah, so
yeah.
130,000 approximately.
Yeah, 130,000.
Yeah, that's correct. Just once.
So, yeah, why would it be like that? The numbers are accurate, but over on the right-hand side, for some reason, it's doubled up.
The formula is picking up, is,
Yeah.
That's the total
Flaw in the
change there.
Excel.
Oh,
Do you see that?
that's an internal, yeah. That's just a spreadsheet error there.
So
if you see-
1,036,200 to 905,300.
If you see the total above the 261, it says, if you follow that over to the left a little bit, it says total.
yes.
That's the actual total.
So in this instance, the land value has not changed at all. The improvement value did decrease by 130,900. And
Accurate.
so for a total change of 130,900.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll make a
Thank you
motion
for,
to
thank you
approve.
for that clarification, and it's important to get read into the record.
I think the next one's the same way for the Wilson.
Okay, so we should, is there we should move on. Is there any other questions on this particular property? I don't want the focus to be too much, the math is important, but the real focus is on the valuation. Are we comfortable with the valuation, council, on any?
Yeah.
So I would move that council approve the valuation for 21054 Caroline Court as updated,
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries. Okay, 919 North Shore Drive.
The homeowners, I think were in agreement to the total value. They had a recent appraisal. We did interior inspection of the property. We reduced the overall value, essentially reducing the dwelling, which brought their value down from the 698.9 to 568.7.
$130,200, right?
Correct.
Make a motion to approve the new valuation of 919 North Shore Drive.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, motion carries. Our next one is a land only. It is the parcel 20-032-2132-0010, and it's a land value only.
The owner is TMI.
Correct.
Okay.
This was initial value 939,400, updated value 578,100.
Yes. So, so this is the property. It's in the airport. It's one of the airport lots. The owner it was previously 2 lots and was combined. And so this is basically just an adjustment. There's some other recent sales in the area that we adjusted this to match those other sales in the area. So this owner's owned it for a while. I believe he actually bought it from the city. So
Parcel, is this not an airport?
correct.
Yeah, it wasn't the airport proper, it was the airport.
It's on the airport or in the airport.
Airport
area.
Business
Yeah,
Park?
sorry,
Yeah,
my,
right.
yeah.
You're noting some puzzled faces at council.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
Yeah, that was, yeah, we just sold that, what, a year and a half ago, or?
Yeah,
so? Sure.
Make
Yeah,
the
it
motion.
wasn't that long ago, and this is closer to the sale price. It's a little above the sale price still, but it's closer.
That was what my next question was going to be.
Yeah.
There should be a recent comp there, so, okay.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to accept the assessor's recommendation on property identification number 20.032.21.32.0010.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries. Next property for consideration is 920 Broadway Avenue West, which is also a commercial property. Want to walk us through this one?
Yeah, so this is, as you said, 920 Broadway Avenue, owned by Mike Muskie. We went back and forth a little bit on the value on this one. We revalued based on, like I said, like the other one, comparable sales that happened in the area. He wasn't in 100% recommendation, but he did accept this value. He did agree to this value by the end of this. So, so this is agreed to by the property owner at the 991.
Council, any questions, follow-up? I would move that council approve the updated assessed value for 920 Broadway Avenue West.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Motion carries. Next, we have 9308 Jewel Lane North. Looks like a slight adjustment based on the home site.
Yeah, so after an interior inspection, staff determined that the deck was in rough shape, needed to be redone. So we removed the deck or changed property characteristics of the property. The value was $765,800 to $760,000. That's correct.
And level of homeowner,
I think the homeowners were somewhat satisfied. They felt like our value was still high, but the property is currently listed on the open market as well for more than our assessor recommendation.
thoughts, questions on this one?
I'll move to accept the new valuation by the assessor on 9308 Jewel Lane North.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. All right, next 4850 217th Street North.
So after, I guess, an exterior inspection of the property, this is actually a detached garage where years prior to the homeowners purchasing the property, I think it was like a livable area where they converted the last couple of years back to detached garage. So the homeowners attended the local meeting and we were able to go out and verify. And that's where the change came in. I feel like the homeowners were satisfied with that, especially they had brought some information. There's other scenarios along Clear Lake that are also like this, so.
Interesting of note that you took the land value almost down, I mean, a substantial adjustment to the land value, which we many times don't see, so of note.
Yeah, this one was adjusted because they own a house across the lake and own a detached garage. So we're gonna look at the house and the garage as like one parcel, like we do other properties out there. But this one, prior to them coming to us, we still had a site, a livable site on there.
Interesting. That's,
So.
yeah, that's,
I'll make the motion that we accept the recommendation that 4850 217th Street North.
I'll second.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. And last but not least, we have, am I right in that? Yes. Last but not least, 9726 210th Street Court North.
Yep, this homeowner actually attended the local meeting for his father. Staff walked through the property and verified that the property is not livable, and will never be livable. Like the structure's there, but the bones and no water, no heat, stuff like that. So they made a substantial reduction based on an interior inspection.
Understood. Total reduction is $73,900 in value. this case appropriate, based on that description appropriately, so most of that value is based on land. Council, questions on this one?
I'll make a motion to approve the new assessed value of 9726, 210th Street Court North.
The motion, is there a second? I'll second, and then I believe
Just
you had a
make
question or
about this
comment. Yeah,
property.
absolutely.
If you need to do yourself a favor and take a drive by this property, not only is it inhabitable, it is a danger to the neighborhood and everyone around there. It needs to come down. I don't know what kind of jurisdiction the city has on that, but it's dangerous. You were there, you saw how, just the shape of that home, it's record.
Noted. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries. That brings us to the end of our individual appeals. Is there any further items for council to consider?
We actually have some more on the list that the assessor's office is recommending no changes to the properties. Do you want me to read them off, or do you want to read them off and go
And
individually?
these would be what's on the sign-in sheet?
Yeah, so like number 1, 6, and 12 through 15, I believe.
1, 6, and items 12 through 15. Council, I'll give you just a moment here to review those addresses. And item 6 is actually 2 parcels, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. 2 addresses and 2 parcels.
Do you have reasons for, I feel compelled that if we have to approve the denials, we should hear reasons for denial.
Sure.
Do you want to just, do you have summaries that you could walk us through each of these individually, and then maybe we approve in mass?
Sure.
Also, council, as she's walking us through these, if we have questions, or if you want to get to an individual approval, we certainly can always get to that level.
Sure, so the first one is 7813 North Shore Trail. The homeowners actually rent the property out and weren't able to get an interior inspection, so our policy is we do need to do an interior inspection before any value change is warranted, so that's why we recommend no change on that one.
And they're aware of that if they wanted to appeal in future years, is that right?
I did make them aware.
Okay.
Item number 6 is 2 apartment buildings, 2 multi-family dwellings. They're both what we call 4D apartments. They're low-income apartments. These are the ones that are off of Headwaters Boulevard. The address is actually Forest Road North, but they're right off of Headwaters Boulevard. So the owner contacted us, and we took a look at his financials, and the financials are lower than what we expected, but it is a low-income apartment. So we actually, instead of using their actual financials, we use market, because even with a low-income property, we are tasked to market or to value it based on actual market values. So in this case, it is being valued as market values, and we are recommending no change.
So for low-income housing, where they're artificially keeping the rents lower than market value, they still are paying taxes as though they're market rate rentals?
They're not paying taxes as though they're market rentals, because they get other tax benefits.
Okay.
Their valuation, however, is based on market rate rentals. There's other various tax benefits they get. The rent is supplemented, but in the case, at least of this particular apartment building, it's not supplemented in most cases. And by that, I mean most units are not supplemented up to the level where we would see a normal market.
Understood. Or item 12, the 990 235th Street, I think is maybe our next one.
So 990 235th also attended the local. I think their main concern was taxes, not value. So staff recommended our information was accurate and no changes were warranted.
Understood? 4695 One Gateway.
That homeowner also attended and actually set up an appointment with another staff member and called the day prior or the day of and canceled. I believe the homeowner felt like their value might be in line. If she felt it was out of line, still, she would continue on to the county.
Excellent.
So we recommended no change on that one as well.
Thank you. 8950 235th Street West.
That one, I feel like the homeowners felt like their value was high. I believe for health reasons, they were unable to let an assessor into the property. They were gonna send a video of the property. Staff had not received that video. Staff did reach out to the homeowners, left a message, and have not heard back from the homeowners, so we recommend no change.
Good. And 21038 Caroline Court North.
Staff had contact with the homeowner. We actually left a tag at the property, and the homeowner decided he felt like the value was in line with the neighborhood. So we recommend no change.
Understood. Thank you. So with that, council, any further discussion or questions on the denials? I would,
Yeah, it's difficult to not accept what they've done here because the homeowners aren't here to have an argument in front of us, so.
that said, each one of us did sit in on the initial conversation.
exactly, yeah.
Generally, if they attended the meeting, so there was that level of transparency and process. So with that, I would move that council approve or affirm the denials as presented by Washington County. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries. With
you.
that, I think we're concluded, is that correct? All right, thank you for being here this year. It's always nice to wrap up this process, and we appreciate your service to our community. With that, council, we can bring our local Board of Appeal and Equalization meeting to a close, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. You don't need any discussion. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Give just a moment for council to reset, and we'll be back for a council meeting here in just a few minutes. That meeting always feels like.
What's that?
That meeting always feels like.
It is, yeah, I agree.
There were so many. Otherwise, it would have taken us 10 hours.
Oh, thank you.
Dan, I was wondering if you'd started to sell airport lots.
I was gonna say, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about it.
Karen, anything further that you need to reset before we?
No, I don't think so. Everything's up on your screens for the 7 o'clock meeting. So you guys should be good to go. We just know each other so well. Soul sister. I was wondering, I didn't know, and I asked a few different people while we were waiting in the wings.
All right, I think we're ready to reset and ready to go. I'd like to call tonight's city council meeting to order, and Karen, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Husnick,
Here.
Councilmember Valento,
Here.
Councilmember Erickson,
Here.
Councilmember Roberts,
Here.
Mayor Bain.
Here, I'd like to invite everyone to rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, we have an agenda before you this evening. I will entertain a motion to approve or any changes.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay.
A motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Oppose, and our agenda is approved. Our next item this evening is open forum. Open forum is any interested party's opportunity to address council on any topic of their choice. And do we have anyone signed up? Nobody signed up for open forum tonight and nobody online? All right. With that, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Council for consideration tonight is consent agenda items 6A through 6L. Happy to entertain a motion to approve or any changes to the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to pull item 6D as in Delta for the consideration.
Excellent. We have, we'll pull item 6D, and I would move that council approve consent agenda items 6A through C and E through L.
I'll second.
The motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, and consent agenda is approved. Moving on to the regular agenda is item 6D, which is the minutes from the April 17th council workshop. And I would move that council approve the minutes from the April 17th council workshop. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye. Abstain.
Oppose, one abstention, and our minutes are approved. Okay, we'll move into our action agenda this evening, starting with item 7A, which is resolution 724-2301, accepting a donation from $420 from multiple donors to the Forest Lake Fire Department and in memoriam, and Chief Newman will take us through this.
Mayor, members of the council, we received a generous donation of $420 in memory of retired Forest Lake firefighter Frank Elmquist. Staff recommendation is to accept this donation with gratitude.
Very nice. I would move that council accept with gratitude the resolution 424-2301, the generous donation of $420 in memory of retired firefighter Frank Elmquist.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and our motion's approved. Our next item this evening is another donation, resolution 424-2302, a donation of $650 from Forest Lake Chevrolet Cadillac to the fire department, and Chief Newman.
Once again, we received this generous donation of $650 from Forest Lake Chevrolet Cadillac. Staff recommendation is to accept this donation with gratitude.
Thank you so much to them. I would move that council approve resolution 424-2302, a donation of $650 from Forest Lake Chevrolet Cadillac to the fire department with gratitude. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, and motion carries. Right, next item 7C, resolution 424-2303, which is the 2023 crack filling and seal coat project award. And Ryan?
Mayor, City Council, within your packet is the bid of results and award recommendation for the 2023 crack filling and seal coat project funded out of 211. The project budget was $200,000. As you can see from the 3 bids that we received, we're under budget, so we'll be able to work with Public Works to add some additional areas if we find that suitable. So tonight, we recommend the City Council by resolution award the project to Pearson Brothers Incorporated in the amount of $167,945 for the 2023 crack filling and seal coat project.
And Ryan, you mentioned the budget was 200,000, is that right?
Correct.
Council, any questions for Ryan on this? Questions? Open for a motion if anyone's ready.
I was looking for the right words. I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 04242303, the 2023 crack filling and seal coat project.
Excellent. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries. All right, our next item this evening is the downtown transient dock purchase. And Dan, I believe you're walking us through this.
Mayor, members of council, this was previously discussed during the April 10th meeting. We got feedback to go get quotes and DNR permission for option number 1, which was the more traditional marina with the mainline dock and the slips that were adjacent to it. Staff did reach out, got competitive quotes for it, as well as reached out to the DNR. I'm happy to say that the DNR got back to me and said we do not need any additional permitting for this dock layout. They did review the proposed layout and said we're able to install it without having any additional permit needed. Just again, want to remind council that this is a temporary solution for the transient boat slips in downtown. The plan, in talking with Bruce, would be to combine the transient boat slips with the current Your Boat Club dock that's down there. So we have one dock that's there. That option would require additional DNR review and probably an EAW and additional permitting work. But in the interim, this proposed expansion does not require any permit work. We also solicited quotes. The lowest quote for the project was from Twin Cities Dock and Lift in the amount of $48,321. I also confirmed the Lake Association is generously donating $15,000 to this project, which brings the total cost for the city of Forest Lake to $33,321. Lead times, we're still looking at approximately 3 to 4 weeks from order placement. So if this was approved, the order would be placed this week. So we're looking at still the possibility of getting this installed before Memorial Day of this year. Is still on the cards, assuming that those delivery dates hold. Staff is recommending approval of the quote from Twin Cities Dock and Lift, and from the funding of this is recommending utilizing general fund balance to pay for the purchase of the dock. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have regarding the dock or the proposed funding strategy for it.
Thank you, Dan. For Dan?
No, just a comment. I mean, this is something that we pretty much decided on when we had our workshop, that we were gonna go with the better one, the better dock system, I think. Also, it's a local company too, right?
Correct.
Dan? I mean, so we're doing business right here in our hometown, and that's always a good thing.
I'd just like to thank the generous donation of the Forest Lake Association and kind of the partnership in getting us to this point. I know we've talked about a lot of different designs and what's going to work best out there. I think, this type of a configuration I'm in support of, but also if this doesn't work, these are modular components that we can reconfigure into something that does work. I think the headline that we need to just make sure that we are continuing to stay focused on is that we've expanded the dock space significantly, and this has been a high need item. So happy to support it. I'm also happy that we've got the fund balance that can support the difference. So me, well-timed and something we should consider.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we purchase the dock from Twin Cities Dock and Lift, utilizing the general fund to pay for the purchase as presented by Dan, with the contribution from the Forest Lake Association.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, with that, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, and motion carries. Thank you for being here tonight, gentlemen. All right, we'll move on to 7E, which is the Pelsol, I might be saying that incorrectly, LLC subdivision concept plan review. Andy, you're walking us through this.
Thank you, Mayor Bay, members of the council. It is Pelsol LLC. Karen, could you pull up my screen, please? They have submitted a 5-lot concept plan for subdivision on Ingersoll Avenue. Just for frame of reference, that is outside of the 2030 and 2040 MUSA boundaries, so it is permissible to have more of that rural residential development feel. This is the site location of the property. I'm just going to pull up, they're proposing that, as I noted, that 5-lot subdivision. On April 12th, the Planning Commission reviewed this concept plan. As a reminder, concept plans just are an opportunity for the Planning Commission and the City Council to give informal comment back to the developers. There's nothing binding in this, no formal action is needed tonight. As I noticed, it's a rural residential development east of Harrow Avenue. It's almost 60 acres. About half of it, though, is wetland. The property has been delineated before the concept review, which is pretty far in the process. Typically, we don't get this far at concept review. But that was something that we really encouraged the developer to do to really help ensure that they were on the right track for preserving these resources and that we could get the minimum acreage in on each of those 5 lots. So it'll be single-family homes. When it comes to public dedications, right-of-way will be acquired for Harrow Avenue. An additional 33 feet is proposed by the developer, so that would increase the Harrow Avenue right-of-way. Parkland dedication will be contemplated at the time of subdivision review as well. The 2040 comp plan does call for a trail in this location, but based on the grades and the infrastructure in the location, staff believes it would be on the west side of the road, so we wouldn't be seeking any additional right-of-way for trail acquisition through here. Beyond that, the property is really well suited for the development. The developers have gone to great lengths to show us what I would say is a overly detailed concept plan. Planning Commission at their April 12th meeting was very impressed with the level of detail. I would say with this level of detail, they'll probably kind of have a pretty good and efficient review process for that preliminary and final plat. So staff's just here to accept any comments the council may have and convey those to the developer. And otherwise, the next time you'll see this would be at the time of preliminary plat.
Abby, questions for Abby on the concept plan? There, is 5 parcels?
5 parcels, correct.
And there's not an ability to further divide any of those parcels, right? So is that kind of, from a density standpoint, would that be the max, or would there be an opportunity to further divide in that
This
district?
would require a comp plan amendment for further density. So it's outside of the area where urban services are projected to grow through 2040. So what the comp plan contemplates and the zoning code supports is for properties east of Harrow to be of larger acreage, so that maybe someday they could potentially be split if urban services were extended in that area. Given the grades through the property, it's a really nice piece of property, but given the grades, the amount of wetland, it could be tricky getting additional home sites in there. Not to say that's not impossible, but it probably wouldn't be in this first generation of living on these sites. It's more than likely they will retain a rural residential feel for a long time.
I guess the basis of my question was to get around to ask about the condition of and the impact on Ingersoll. That's that, just that street readiness. But on 5 units I'm not. Other questions, points of feedback? This is kind of just our general opportunity to give a first blush and for the developer to hear other feedback points, things we might have as this project progresses or doesn't progress.
So I attended the planning council commission meeting last week, and the commission was gushing over this plan. I mean, they used the term of the gold standard of how to come forward with a plat, and so the developer did a great job in providing that, and I know this land fairly well, and this is, I think, a great use of larger lots, and it's a beautiful piece of land, and it'll be that way for a long time.
Given the wetland impact, have they started the process with the watershed district? Does that?
They have, and there are actually no wetlands that are at this time are being proposed to be impacted. So they've delineated all the wetlands. They're showing areas where they can actually get in. Just zoom in a little bit. In between your slopes to get to 1 acre, about acre and a half. building pad sites. So that doesn't necessarily mean that that's exactly where it'll go, but it is actually showing where that home could be located, where you could get a driveway in and a septic and not impact any wetlands. The one area that it starts to get a little tricky, we start to get close to some buffers just coming into the second to southerly lot. And then again, on that most southerly lot, but we are able to get in those acre building sites and septic areas outside of those wetland basins and their required buffers. They have started consultation with the watershed and I believe also the DNR. So,
Usually we have a lot more to say about these, but to
Yeah, it just seemed-
Councilmember Roberts' point, when it's laid out really well, it kind of answers the document answers a lot of questions.
Yeah, this definitely fits the feel of Ingersoll. I live over there and this is good. It fits the neighborhood feel for sure.
I would certainly support the idea of what they have going here. It just seems like it works well into this parcel, so, you know, and it's meets all the criteria.
Great, well, I will convey that to the development team, the landowners, and I'm sure you'll probably see them back fairly soon with plats.
That
official
would be my
plats.
questions. What is their timeline?
I'm not too sure. It's kind of one of those things that sometimes we know and sometimes we don't. I have a feeling it'll move fairly quickly now that the concept plan is done. Generally, it just is kind of waiting on some of those other reviews to run concurrently with the cities. But I would say within the next 60 to 90 days, we'll probably be done with this planning process.
Council, any other points of feedback or questions?
You're not looking for any kind of approval
No.
or anything tonight, right?
No,
Okay.
just that general feedback is enough. I think it's pretty consistent with the planning commission, and I'll convey your words to the development team.
Very good. Council, that brings us to the end of our planned action agenda for this evening. We do have a workshop discussion, and we'll move into that topic now. Just a quick note that this is a workshop session. Anything that we discuss that requires official action will come back before council in a future meeting. So welcome, just an open discussion. Dave, I believe you are kicking us off on one of our favorite topics of the weed harvester. Did you find a crystal ball to tell you this is the path that we should follow?
No, it's basically put it on discussion just so we didn't kind of forget about it. It's been a couple months now. I sent out a bunch of information and just kind of touching base back to see if you have any questions or thoughts or somewhat of a direction, you know. So we're getting to that time of the year where we should probably start looking for operators if we're going to do it this summer. So.
Have you had an opportunity to hear, do you have a recommendation for us, or have you heard recommendations from Lake Association or other interested parties that would kind of help us to inform this decision?
So kind of like last time, we're stuck in the middle. The Lake Association would like us to cut. The watershed aren't big fans of mechanical weed harvesting, and then we're the third vote. So, yeah, I mean, there's three choices: to not do it, to do it like we've always done it, or some kind of a hybrid where you do channels in certain areas, or, you know, like a big navigational issue somewhere that you go and clear out. So we can Public Works and make any of the three work. So it's more or less just a direction of which way.
And just to support the discussion, the estimated budget impact of proceeding with it is about what per year?
It was about between $25,000 and $30,000, somewhere right around in
If we were
that.
to not,
Staffing's about half of that, and then the rest is fuel and maintenance.
thoughts, feedback?
You mentioned the watershed district and the Lake Association. What about the DNR? There's always plenty of people to get involved.
The DNR is what permits us, so the Lake Association gets the permit, and they tell us where we can cut and how much we can cut and all that. So I mean, for what we do, they permit us to do that, so they're aware of the cutting and and allow that to happen. And the watershed is just against cutting vegetation out of a lake. That's why even in our agreement, they won't fund any of the weed harvesting activities.
Are they afraid of spreading something, or what do you know?
The watershed, I think it's just keeping a natural lake. It's,
Oh.
you're cutting something in the lake.
Yeah, because you're not cutting milfoil or anything like that.
No, and Jerry with the watershed, they do that permitting and they know where all the AIS is, you know, invasive species, so we cut everywhere but there.
Well, I think, you know, if the Lakes Association's in support of it, I think we should, but don't think we should limit ourselves just to channels and navigational in case there is an issue somewhere else that we need to attack. Sometimes there's weeds that just come up, and so I wouldn't want to limit ourselves to just certain navigational or certain areas.
I would agree. If we're going to have a weed cutting program, let's have a weed cutting program that makes sense and isn't like red taped by limitations. So if we're going to do it, I say let's do it and have a full program.
I think it's been a fairly popular thing too with.
I mean, that's my hesitation. I'm still not 100% convinced on the overall effectiveness and that it's the best solution, but it is the solution we have. And my hesitation on just not doing it is severely limiting the navigation and enjoying of one of our most popular recreational amenities. And yes, $22,000 is not inexpensive. However, it's also for the number of people impacted and the number of hours of enjoyment that it provides. To me, it's money well spent. And I guess in absence, if there were some strong reason of why we absolutely should stop doing this practice, I'm open to hearing that, but those reasons just don't come. It seems to be more of a, does it help? And I think it benefit to it that allows for more enjoyment. Amenity that many people of our, many of our residents and visitors use, and it's an attraction. I wouldn't want, I think there's a little bit of protecting our reputation at risk, and that I wouldn't want us to stop investing in that and, get the reputation that we've just stopped caring about our lake, and it's just not the case, so.
Yeah, personally, I would support moving ahead with what we've been doing so far until we come up with a better solution. Yeah, so a lot of weeds.
I think it's it's the part of it's just the beast of the nature of this type of lake, right? We live on this shallow lake that this is the
Plenty of nutrients and, yeah.
part of just supporting that lake as it is and trying to support as much, recreation as we can on it. Other perspectives, thoughts? Dave, that might be as strong of a position as we get.
Pretty good.
It's kind of an aw shucks. I think we should. I do need to recognize, we get phone calls and emails of residents that absolutely can't stand this practice, that, they feel that it causes weeds to wash up, and yes, but I think that that's part of just.
Yep, that's completely fine. It's just, that's why I wanted to bring this back, to make sure I had some time, because it's not an easy job to fill, so. If you have any neighbors that want to drive a big green weed harvester around the lake?
What months do you normally start doing that?
Usually, actually, Jerry helps out quite a bit. When he's out in his pontoon, he can kind of sense when the weeds are getting to that time. He knows when we can start cutting. So he'll kind of let us know. It's usually middle of June, a little bit before the 4th. It depends on how fast the water warms up. If you get a really warm spring, it may be sooner, but it's usually that 3rd week in June. And we go till Labor Day. That's usually when the boating traffic kind of dies down, and then we just.
All right. Anything else from us on
I
this
received my
topic?
direction. I am good to go. Thank you.
Let's move on to staff updates. We'll start with Karen.
Thank you, Mayor Bain and council members. I don't have any updates this evening.
Mayor, members of the council, last Thursday I attended the Real Estate Journal Awards, and unfortunately I do not have the City of the Year statue in front of me. Apple Valley did win this year's City of the Year award, but I do want to mention that it was still great exposure for the city. As you walked in, they had a big banner display. Our logo was on that display. It was on the table setting displays. And then every attendee got one of these big Real Estate Journal Awards books that had all the projects, all of the finalists listed in it. So approximately 900 developers, bankers, site selectors, pretty much anybody in the development community and building management community in the Twin Cities has one of these now. So we got some great exposure in the development community as a result of that. Hopefully next year we reapply and can actually take home the award. But it was great to attend, great to meet a lot of people in the development community and have our name announced as a finalist in front of the entire panel. So it's proof that the policy work that the EDA and council is doing in terms of development and planning commission does bear fruit in the development community. It's a result of that work that we got to become a finalist. So it's kind of a kudos for all that policy work that we've been going through the last 3 or 4 years. So that's my update.
Well done, Dan. Thanks for representing us. Very good. Abby?
Thank you, Mayor Bain, members of the council. Just a little first quarter feedback or analysis that we've done. We have had a slight increase in our building permit activity this year compared to last year. However, it's only about 25% when comparing that to 2021. We're about the same as where we were in 2021. So it's hard to tell exactly where we'll be heading through this next construction year. I will say, and this might just be because of our staffing conditions last year, we have an over 100% increase in our planning and zoning applications. I don't know if that's because we had a different staffing challenges early last year. I would assume that's part of it, but we are still up significantly from 2021 as well. Just want to let you know the city has received Arts in the Park vendor applications. We have filled all of our 60 vendor slots. Over 50% of our vendors are new vendors, with about 50% of our vendors being handmade, really trying to put those arts back in that Arts in the Park. We still have a little bit of flexibility with food vendors. We're trying to slot in a couple more because we had some challenges in the past years with just food vendors running out. There's pretty high demand for people wanting to come to the park, have their dinner, do the whole thing. And then just also some flexibility for those maybe one-off circumstances where there might be a community endeavor that's happening, or a youth organization, civic organization that wants a booth that one night. We will be able to accommodate those one-off spin-offs. This is probably the first year, though, that we won't keep accepting vendor applications through the season, because we're pretty consistently seeing that the vendors are coming, they're staying, and it's only kind of giving a false hope to other vendors that kind of keep applying during that process. And then lastly, I just want to say before we meet again, I'll have reached my 1-year mark with the city of Forest Lake. And I can actually say the city of Forest Lake this time without slipping in another Washington County name. So I just want to thank you for letting me serve the council and this community. And I look forward to continuing on in the success that we're building.
Congratulations on 1 year.
Thank you.
Patrick?
We just continue to monitor what's going on in the legislature to see they should be winding up their business fairly soon. Still have nothing more than that to report. So when we do, we will let you know. Other than that, I have no other report.
Amanda?
Thank you, Honor Council. Nothing but available for questions.
Steve?
No updates.
Mayor, City Council, just let you guys know load restrictions came off this morning, so 2023 construction season has officially or finally arrived, even though the weather doesn't make it feel like it. But so things will certainly pick up. I'll give you more construction updates as things keep evolving, but the lift station project plans on starting the rest of the project starting week of May 8th. So, and we'll have some pre-cons for the seal coat and the other street project and bring that information back to you when it's available.
Very good. Thank you. Chief Peterson?
No updates from me tonight.
Chief Newman?
No updates.
All right. Kevin?
No updates, but available for questions.
I call you Finance Chief. You don't get to Chief, and then Kevin. I want to call you Finance Chief. All right. Councilmember Roberts?
I have no updates, other than I did, as I mentioned, attended the planning commission meeting, which was a great meeting. I do have a couple questions, though, just to kind of an update on maybe the street sweeping and pothole and that, if that process has begun. I've had some questions on that.
First round of street sweeping got completed today, and so then next week we'll start the second sweeper, the enhanced portion of it, where we track the weight and the zones that we sweep. So all the curbed areas have been swept once already. Yep.
I was just, are streets extra messy this year? I feel like there's just extra debris. Is that symptom of winter? Is it always like this? It just feels like there's extra.
Potholes, extra potholes, and then just by us scraping the roads too, you're flaking more stuff off the top of the road too. So you just kind of scraping the top layer of the road off. But yeah, it was they picked up a lot of debris that first ride around. So
I guess some of that may also just be residents, doing their own shoveling and snow removal, and it just creates disruptive, creates a mess. So, and then did you mention potholes?
yep, potholes. We're still going to North St. Paul every day to get 4 ton, and if we get enough time to get another load and keep it warm at the shop, for the next day. But now with Ryan said, with road restrictions off, commercial asphalt should open relatively soon once they start seeing contractors want to do roads. So that'll speed it up much more. Then we can usually get up to 20 ton a day just by having it that much closer. So low and painful right now, but it's as fast as we can go. So
thanks.
Councilmember Valento.
Nothing from me tonight.
All right. Councilmember Hessnick.
I have no updates either tonight. Thanks.
Councilmember Erickson.
No updates tonight.
All right. Just a quick update for me. Have a couple of, we have some open appointments yet to do. And we had a discussion in our last workshop about, gosh, we really have a need to get the new park commission seated. And I agree. And in just consideration and conversation with we have 2 previous members that are still interested in serving, and having conversations with them, having conversations with some prospective members. I've kind of come to the conclusion that we need to get through at least the council level May conversation and workshop on just overall park plan and funding. As I hear in particular new park members being interested, there's a lot of great enthusiasm, there's a lot of great ideas, but I think what we owe it to all of those commission members is some financial plan, or at least some idea as to our appetite for a financial plan. And we aren't going to know that and aren't going to give a strong sense of that until we've seen that park plan come into the budget. And much like we took the approach of streets, we're not going to know specifically which park projects are going to be tackled when, but more of a financial picture of our appetite to support some broader park funding. Because as it relates specifically to the park commission, and hearing feedback of past commission members, part of the challenge has been there's been a disconnect between ideas being generated, what they want to do, and council's ability to fund. And I feel like we're at a spot of the 10-year plan coming together where we can at least give some high-level guidance as to, yes, for the next 2 to 3, 4 years, whatever that might be, you're probably living with just park dedication dollars, or perhaps when we see that plan, we come together, decide, we actually need to do some additional general fund funding or some additional source of revenue that's going to provide more. Because I think that's really just going to help them set expectations as to pace and scope of work. Without that, there's just this question on this constant kind of back and forth of what do we want for parks? We come up with big ideas. We've now had 2 park boards, a park board and a park commission, that have essentially created large plans that council hasn't had an appetite to fund. And we've now seen this pendulum swing twice. And now that we're so close to having that 10-year plan, not to say that we're going to have the master, all of the funding pieced, but I think at least having the conversation of what does the near-term financial future look like for park funding, and what's our commitment for council to do that? I think we're just starting off on just poor expectations again of, are we working in, current sources of revenue, or are we looking to expand those sources of revenue in the near term. And I think the good news is we have community members who are interested in serving. They just want to know what are they working with? And they're happy to do either option, but either option is a really different experience. And if we were, a year away from having, this 10-year plan, including parks, I'd say we've got to have a commission seated. But given that near-term nature, I've invited both of the past members to come to that workshop, to be participants, to kind of hear what council's working with. And then I think we should consider taking feedback from that and at least being able to have a conversation with those prospective members on this is what the next couple of years is likely to look like, and then seat that commission in June. That's my thought. I think we owe it to them, and council has not shown their cards, if you will, of, again, what is the appetite? And we haven't done that because we haven't known. Just like up until, just last month, we didn't have a great picture of what does that 10-year street plan look like. We're getting close to having that 10-year park plan, how all the pieces fit together. There's still a lot of work to be done, but at least we'll be able to kind of understand for at least the next couple of years, what does the scope of work look like for them? In the meantime, I hear, and there's a lot of, day-to-day, there's details related to Fenway, there's details with our relationship with FLA. Those seem to be going okay. Could always use a little bit more guidance, but we're doing okay. The next big step that needs to be taken is really what are the next steps related to the 10-year plan? And the first thing that new commission is going to do is how much money do we have to work with? And I think we owe them at least a high-level answer to that. So wanted an update because I know it's kind of been this open question on what are we going to do.
So, and that makes complete sense, as long as those that have reached out that have interest to be, have been notified and know what the plan is.
Yeah, and I have had this conversation. I haven't had it with every single applicant, but I've had it with at least, so there's 2 applicants that are a little further along in the process, and then the 2 that had been seated. That was just more of a conversation of here's what I'm thinking, what are your thoughts? And there was overall consensus of, yeah, this has been a challenge of serving, and if we have some better information in the near term, then let's hold off. Again, it's not a 3-6 month delay. It's really let's get to June and reconsider with a little bit more information.
There's plenty of good ideas out there. We just got to find them.
There's a ton. And, I think about the gentleman who came to council who, had this great idea about, the 97 trail. And what I don't want to do for anybody is to leave a false expectation. Or if you've just joined the commission and work really hard, we can make that happen. There's some of that certainly can happen, and I love that spirit, but we also need to, at the end of the day, have a commitment to some level of funding, and those are a lot of conversations we have still to have. Also, I think that thought and getting them activated at that time does still allow for some near-term input for 2024 budget, allows for some near-term input as we are making additional updates to the 10-year plan. It gives council at least our first opportunity to provide some initial thoughts. Yeah, please.
I just asked, so I understand that the park will be at our next workshop, that issue, and that is, again, be more specific to dollars and not so much projects. Is that kind of how you're thinking? The reason I'm asking is that, before my time on the council, my understanding is that the Belts Park, it was quite a ways down the road, and then that commission, we had some people resign. So I'm just wondering if that's gonna be part of the conversation. If not, maybe a quick update now.
Most of it will be dollars, but we will talk about Belts Park because that's a major portion of the dollars coming. So we will have to talk about a Belts Park and what that will do to the funds.
And if I might add, we will also just talk about quite a number of our parks are just past due. And so kind of seeing what that schedule is, a lot of the equipment replacement, those are very set schedules that were past due. So we probably will share some of that information with you as well.
We'll have more project than the streets did.
And I think the Belts Park question is actually a good example of just, the cost of doing a significant park overhaul, and just an example of how in our current funding source, and this can kind of be laid out in the worksheet or in the workshop of how, those funds trickle in today through those park dedication fees, and then we've got these large projects, and whether that's Belts Park or a park somewhere else, it's kind of the nature of how that fund operates under our existing plan. And one of the questions for us is, are we comfortable with that? Is that our long-term plan? It could be. Or is there a need for us to do some more general fund funding of that to help speed things along? And I think that's part of what we just need to wrestle with. And then ultimately see overall impact. I mean, the general fund funding, either bond or through levy, and that's part of, I think, what we need to tackle. Any other questions related to that? Patrick, anything else for us related to that? All right, I don't have any other updates. That is the end of our planned agenda this evening. Council, happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signal by saying aye. 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 Oppose? And we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned before we start.